What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the FF Ballbusters podcast. Thank you for joining us. We are recording this on Tuesday, June 6th. This year is flying by, man. It's crazy. But my name is Eric. That's my co host, Will. How are you feeling this morning?
Dog, I'm feeling good. Ready to keep continuing on with this series we kind of got going. So this should be a fun one, honestly. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, this one, who knows? You never know. But I feel like this could be the most disagreements of any of the groups. It's just such a hodgepodge position. We're talking tight ends today, Dynasty tight end tier list. It's going to be a top 12 video, but we're going to kind of keep going through however long it takes to fill out the tier of the last guy. So if you've watched our wide receiver tier list video, then you kind of already know the deal. If you haven't seen that, I would highly suggest you go check it out. Pretty proud of that video. And just in general, before we get into it, if you do enjoy this video, if you enjoy the content that we put out, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. That helps us out a ton, lets us know that you like what we got going on, and we can keep providing value to you guys. So thank you very much for that, and let's get into it.
Hell yeah.
All right, so we're going to tiermaker.com, and the first part of this, I don't think we're going to disagree on. The top two guys, I would imagine, would be the same for both of us, but I'll let you kick us off. Who you got?
Yeah, obviously at the top, it's the guy who's been at the top for a little bit for the past couple years. It's Mr. Kyle Pitts. In terms
Yes,
of
sir.
Dynasty, he's the biggest, best prospect we've seen probably ever at this point.
Yeah.
And everyone, there's a lot of recency bias with Kyle Pitts. A lot of people saying, well, Kyle Pitts isn't doing much. Kyle Pitts isn't doing this. I mean, his rookie year, he had a great year. He had 1,000 yards receiving. It's not like he hasn't done anything in the league to prove that he can perform at a high level. Just a down year last year, coming off an injury, hoping for the best, and we still believe in Kyle Pitts over here.
Absolutely. Yeah, like you said, greatest tight end prospect we've probably ever seen. In his rookie year, had the third most points per game for a rookie tight end in history. And even though last year's performance didn't necessarily translate fantasy-wise, he still put up the highest target share and the highest ADOT of a second-year tight end of all time. And at 22 years old, he's younger than like a lot of the incoming rookies this year.
Yeah, he's younger than Dalton Kincaid.
By like a considerable amount.
Yeah, I think Dalton Kincaid's already 24, right?
I think he's
Very close.
23 point something. I can look it up, but yeah,
Okay.
he's pretty close. I'm pretty sure. But yeah, so full agreement there with Kyle Pitts.
Yeah.
And then Mark Andrews
Yes.
is also in this tier for me. Yeah, Mark Andrews, equally as impressive, if not more impressive so far. He's been a top 5 tight end each of the past 4 years. According to Ian Miller or Dynasty IM on Twitter, he's put up the highest target share ever for a third, fourth, and fifth year tight end in league history. So he's absolutely crushing it. And I expect this year to be even better. He comes in with the new offensive coordinator, Todd Monken, probably going to increase the pass volume. He's still the clear number one target in that offense. So yeah, sky's the limit for Mark Andrews.
Absolutely agree. And that's where the tier ends for you, correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, I'm going to go ahead, and since I'm next up, I'm going to go ahead and say next up is Travis Kelce in this A tier for me. I'm sure it's the same for you as well.
Yeah.
You can't look past the production that Travis Kelce has had. Even though he is older, he's still performing at the highest level. Not even a high level. He's performing at the highest level. He's been the tight end one, or at least the top 3 tight end, I feel like as long as I can remember, as long as he's been in the league pretty much.
He's been the tight end one 6 out of the last 7 years.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, so the only thing that's holding us back from putting him into that S tier is just because the philosophy you need to have with the team, if you have Travis Kelce, you have to be in a win now mode. You can't be rebuilding really whatsoever, because to capitalize on a Travis Kelce, you got to be win now. But otherwise, yeah, Travis Kelce's the guy. So
yeah, I'm just going to echo that with a few more stats here. Like I said, 6 of the last 7 years, tight end 1. Last year, 18.6 points per game, which was over 5 points per game clear of the tight end 2. That's just a ridiculous advantage. It's crazy. Using tight end premium scoring, if you compare his production the last 3 years to wide receivers, he would have finished as the wide receiver 3, wide receiver 5, and wide receiver 2. It's unbelievable what we're seeing from Travis Kelce. And like I said, that kind of edge at the tight end position, especially in a tight end premium league, which a lot of dynasty leagues are switching to now, is just an absolutely, I don't know, ridiculous advantage. Like I can't even put it into words how important that is to your team. Um, you brought it up. He is 34 years old. We don't know how much longer he has left. He hasn't really slowed down too much, but he could decide to hang it up at any point because it's not like he's got any legacy left to
Yeah,
create. He's done it all.
he's accomplished just about everything he could really want to at this point.
Yeah. So there's going to be people out there in the dynasty community that are, age nuts, whatever. Like they hate old players, but yeah, at a certain point, you got to value production. You have to value winning, and that's where Travis Kelce comes in here at the 3 spot.
Absolutely.
I just did a big spiel, so you want to give us your 4th?
Yeah, my 4th on this same tier with Travis Kelce, I've got T.J. Hawkinson up here. Just in terms of production, stuff like that, I think he's a great mix of production, age, and talent to be able to make him last up here. Also, the fact that he's with Minnesota now, he's got Kirk Cousins. As of right now, I guess the top target, of course, is Justin Jefferson. The number 2 is kind of up for grabs at this point, whether it's going to be Jordan Addison or T.J. Hawkinson. But it doesn't really matter because this is such a high-volume passing offense that there is enough targets to go around for all 3 of them to sort of thrive in fantasy. Because we've seen multiple people from this Minnesota offense succeed from a fantasy level. But
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I do think that Addison probably takes over as the second target in that offense sooner rather than later.
I think so.
Maybe not immediately.
Yeah.
And I've seen a lot of talk about TJ Hawkinson within the last couple days on Twitter in terms of where people have him ranked in Dynasty. A lot of people super in favor of him, have him as their tight end 3. Some even have him in their top tier. I wouldn't go nearly that far. A lot of people that have him even a tier below where we have him right now. And like I can see the arguments from both sides. He's never been like a crazy high-end producer. Last year, obviously being his best year. Even last year, he wasn't all that efficient. His relative athletic score, his RAS score, was pretty good at over a 9, which is actually really important for the tight end position. But strictly his 40 time at a 4.7 isn't great. And again, most positions we don't weigh that very heavily, but athleticism and like 40 times for tight ends is actually really heavily correlated to fantasy production. So him being a little bit below average in those metrics does give me a slight pause, but we saw the production that he put up last year. He's in a great offense, like you mentioned, high pass volume. So I have no problem putting him here in tier 2.
Absolutely agree. And with that being said, that rounds out that tier for you as well.
Yes, sir.
Same here.
All right, so let's get into the B tier, tier 3. This is where things get a little bit interesting for me. I think this is probably where my certainty goes out the window. I'm willing to debate with you if we have any disagreements here. The first name on this list for me is George Kittle.
Okay, yeah, I like that. I had him one spot back. I had one person in favor of him, so I like this spot for him.
Okay, who did you have here?
I had Dallas Goedert.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. He's in the tier for me.
Okay.
But yeah, let's talk about it a little bit. So, I'm again, certainty out the window. I'm not super confident in putting Travis Kelce here. But last year in points per game, he was still the tight end 2 in what we might have considered a down year for him. It was probably his least efficient year of his career. But yeah, he's still put up 13.4 points per game, over 200 fantasy points in the season in only 15 total games, in a really crowded offense with a ton of other mouths to feed. Now, I don't really see that changing, so that's not necessarily a positive for him. He's going to continue to have to compete with guys like Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel, Christian McCaffrey. But if Brock Purdy is the starter, if Sam Darnold is the starter, I'm really happy with that for Kittle. If Trey Lance is the starter, maybe not so much. I don't know. It gives me a little bit of hesitation.
No, I definitely agree. I don't have the stats in front of me, so I am kind of speaking from memory. But I do kind of remember George Kittle's numbers being down when Trey Lance was in the game versus like Jimmy Garoppolo or Brock Purdy. Obviously, we haven't seen Sam Darnold in the offense, but I'm sure he would also sort of fit that mold as well. But
yeah. And we're talking small sample sizes, but yes, I
Yeah.
think you are correct in that.
Yeah. But I do like George Kittle as a talent himself. Obviously, he's on the field all the time because he's a great blocker as well. So he's a
Yeah.
receiving threat on any given play. Also, just like you said, the history's there. He's performed already at this point. The only thing that knocks George Kittle at this point is just and maybe injuries. His ability to stay on the field is sort of an issue. He's getting older, but at the same time, if he produces, this is fantasy football. You got to take the guys who are producing, and he's producing at a high level. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, the injuries and kind of a lack of game-to-game consistency is kind of frustrating with Kittle, but at the tight end position, it's upside and that's all that matters. Like you can't care about anything else because nobody's consistent beyond this point in the rankings.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely agree.
Yeah.
And then, like I was saying earlier, I had Dallas Goedert in this tier, probably
Okay.
around the same spot as George Kittle. So I'm not mad at George Kittle being in front of him. I'm not mad at Dallas Goedert being behind him at all. I just feel like, inside of Philly's offense, he was somebody I was talking up last season as to he had a big role in this offense, at least bigger than people were giving credit for. And when the season started out, yeah, his role in this offense was pretty big, and it didn't start to take a sideline until he got injured. Obviously, they had to try to ramp him back up. By the time they got to the postseason, they got him more involved again. But obviously, Smitty definitely benefited from a lot of the time that Dallas Goedert was out. But I'm hoping that when he comes back this year, he comes back healthy, and he comes back again as one of Jalen Hurts' favorite targets out there. He's young, so he's still got some time with the team as well. So, I mean, not young, but he's younger, on the younger side.
Yeah. I have him in this tier. Fully agree with you. I do have him. I think I have him as my tight end 7.
Okay.
The only hesitation that I have, because I do think he's incredibly talented, like you mentioned, he's got the great offense. He's tied to Jalen Hurts. But once he did get injured, Devonta Smith really stepped up, and I feel like he's,
You think
he's going to take a stranglehold. Yeah,
Okay.
I think Devonta is the clear second receiving option there. It's a really small sample size, so I don't want to use it to extrapolate to a full season numbers or anything like that. But prior to him getting injured, he was consistently above 10 points per game. He put up a couple games over 15 points, 17.5, 24-point games. And then after coming back from the injury, he barely eclipsed 10 points one time. It was only 3 games. So, again, I don't want to look too much into that, but just potentially a look into what his role could be with Devonta Smith taking a step up in that offense.
That is true. His role could have morphed a little bit in that time. They're taking the inventory and seeing what they got in Devonta Smith and him stepping up. So I do see that. That's a fair point.
Yeah. But yeah, absolutely agree that he's in this tier. For me, my tight end 6 is Dalton Kincaid.
Okay.
And again, can be convinced, can be swayed. But my favorite tight end of this rookie class, I think he's incredibly athletic. Some of the best hands that I've seen out of a tight end in recent history, just in terms of, watching the film of a lot of these young guys. He goes to one of the best situations in football. He goes to the Buffalo Bills, gets tied to Josh Allen for the foreseeable future. I think he can step in and become the secondary receiving option in that offense sooner rather than later. Stephon Diggs obviously has the one locked up, but Gabe Davis hasn't proven anything to me. Khalil Shakir hasn't proven anything to me. They've talked about using Dalton Kincaid in that slot role already. I don't want to get too ahead of my skis here and project him for something crazy, which is why he's kind of in the middle of this tier. But I just think the upside is too high to ignore.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. If Dalton Kincaid comes into the league and does, kind of what we're expecting him to do, sort of play that slot receiver role as a tight end, absolutely that's somebody that you want on your team, especially as a rookie coming into the league too. Yeah, honestly, I could see that for sure. I like the value there. I like the team. I love Josh Allen and that pairing for the foreseeable future. So, yeah. That's definitely exciting right there.
Yeah. All right. Okay. And you have him in that tier as well?
Yes. I had him right around. Like I said, I had all 3 of these guys in the same area. So I'm not mad at where they're placed because they're all valued pretty similar to me.
I gotcha. And then I do have one more left in this tier. Do you have anybody else?
I do have one more. I'm interested to see who you have as your one more though, because
Oh, go ahead.
mine is Pat Fryermuth.
Same.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm in the same boat. But let me hear your kind of argument for Pat.
Yeah, Pat Fryermuth, he's kind of, sort of in a
Where is
weird
he?
way, kind of broken the mold for tight ends as of lately. Usually, people say it takes a couple years for tight ends to really get settled into offenses, really get their roles, really get the trust of their offensive coordinators and their head coach. But with Pat Fryermuth, he kind of got that right away. He kind of
Yeah.
benefited from being on a pretty lackluster offense.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
had to censor myself a little bit there. But he's taken that momentum and that role that he gained that rookie year, and he's really rolled with it. He's heavily targeted. He's actually has a pretty good average depth of target as well. He's not really a shallow intermediate guy like a lot of people write him out for. He can be a deep threat. He's gotten those deep targets as well. In terms of talent around him, obviously Deontay Johnson's still there. George Pickens going into his second year. Chase Claypool's no longer there anymore. So that does open up the offense a little bit more for Pat Fryermuth. Kenny Pickett settling into his second year, as much as you want to, take that into account for whatever that is. But I do like Pat Fryermuth as a tight end, and I feel like he's been productive ever since he's entered the league, and I don't see that slowing down anytime soon.
Yeah, I like it. This is definitely one where I'm kind of buying the talent over the situation, because even more so, maybe not in terms of like top tier talent, but just the amount of names around him. He's probably got more mouths to feed around him in Pittsburgh than even like a Kittle in San Francisco. There's just so many guys that are going to command the ball, with whether it be Najee, Deontay, Pickens, Allen Robinson is there now.
That's right. I forgot about Allen Robinson. He is there now,
Yeah.
too. Damn.
There's just a lot of guys. And maybe I take that back. Maybe the San Francisco comparison was hyperbole. Whatever. Don't worry about it. It's a lot of mouths to feed.
It's a lot of people.
but-
a lot of people. Talent-wise, I don't know, but a lot of people.
yeah. But yeah, after starting his career with multiple 20% target rates, including a sophomore season where he commanded 18.2% of Pittsburgh targets, again with a lot of those same names already on the field around him. You mentioned the average depth of target. He had a dot of 8.4 yards down the field, so that puts him in a really good range of outcomes, just historically speaking, compared to other tight ends. In the same range as guys like Zach Ertz, Aaron Hernandez, Owen Daniels, all guys who have put up 17 plus points per game season. Also coming from Dynasty IM on Twitter. Follow him. He's pretty awesome, especially when it comes to tight ends. So, I like Pat Fryermuth in here. I don't know that I see the production in the short term, just because, like we talked about, how many names there are around him. But yeah, I'm going to bet on talent and age at this point.
Yeah, and there's a lot of factors. Like, we don't know how long Deontay Johnson's going to be with the team because he's been in the mill for the last 2-3 years, really. We don't know how
Yeah, I
this
think-
team's going to shape out.
He signed a 2-year extension last offseason?
Yeah,
So this will be his last year?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, we'll see how that wide receiver room shapes out. I don't expect Allen Robinson to be there long. We'll see who they kind of pick, if they want to re-sign Deontay and let one of the other guys go, or if Pickens is the answer. Who knows? But for me, that ends that tier. Does it do that for you as well?
Yes, it does.
Okay. So we are through the top 8 guys and pretty much in agreement so far. So I like that. We're lockstep here. Let's get into tier 4. I'll let you kick us off.
Tier 4 to start this one out is somebody I'm more so excited about, somebody who we finally got at least somewhat of a breakout out of last year. His volume increased. He's got a better quarterback now. The situation's looking better, and I'm talking about David Njoku.
Okay.
I have him here in this tier. Now, whereas to his placement is in this tier, I'm not exactly sure, and we can kind of figure that out as we go. But I definitely know David Njoku does deserve to be at the top end of this tier. In terms of his production when Jacoby Brissett was the quarterback, obviously it was through the roof. We knew that Jacoby Brissett heavily targets tight ends. I believe he was targeting David Njoku almost like the 30% target share at some point, like early on in the season.
I don't have the numbers in front of me,
Might just
but
be-
yeah, he was heavily targeted early on.
Could just be talking out my ass. But I do expect that to continue going forward. I do like not the landing spot. He's been in Cleveland. But I do like the fact that he has Deshaun Watson at quarterback now as well, with a year under his belt, actually getting to practice with the team, actually getting to participate in off-season activities. I think that's going to be huge going into this year. And David Njoku, somebody who, when Deshaun Watson came back, was still being heavily targeted by Deshaun Watson. And I don't really see that changing all too much. With Elijah Moore there, it could cut a little bit into David Njoku's role, since Elijah Moore should be working in that slot role for them. But I like David Njoku as a talent himself, and I believe in talent. So I think this is going to be a good year for David Njoku and going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I do have him in this tier. I do have him a little bit lower. But again, I can be swayed, especially at this range of tight ends. It's kind of a toss-up. I have him as my tight end 12, mainly due to what you talked about with Elijah Moore coming in. They fill a very similar role. And I think that David Njoku's high target volume was because he didn't have like a super high slot rate, but he filled that role in the offense. He was that short to intermediate winner in that portion of the field. And I think that could get a little muddied with Elijah Moore there. But I like him. He's in the same tier. For me, my tight end 9 at the top of the tier is actually Michael Mayer.
Ooh, I like it. I like that.
Yeah. Definitely in the conversation for tight end 1 in the rookie class with Dalton Kincaid, one of the most productive tight ends in college football history. It does come out as an early declare, which you love to see at the tight end position. That is very indicative of success for fantasy and when it comes to progressing to the NFL level. He goes to, I think, a pretty good situation, not a very good team, but he goes to the Raiders with Jimmy Garoppolo, who is gonna target that short and intermediate area of the field, which is where Mayer is gonna win the most. That's where he's gonna have the most success. And also, Darren Waller leaves town, and so there's a void to be filled in that position for the Raiders. And really, besides Devontae Adams, there's not much else there in terms of target competition.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think in terms of landing spot, it's probably the best possible place we could ask for Michael Mayer to get immediate use and production, because like you said, there's no one else really there to compete with him besides Devontae Adams. And obviously Devontae Adams is going to do what he does regardless of who's there. So I like Michael Mayer there. I like him in that spot. And I actually have another rookie in this tier as well. My boy, Mr. Laporta, Sam Laporta.
Hell yeah.
I love the landing spot. I've always loved the landing spot. Where is he? There he is. Had to look for the Iowa jersey. We love an Iowa tight end.
Always.
But again, I love the profile. I love the athleticism. I love the landing spot of him landing with Detroit. Being honest with you, I don't love the fact that Jameson Williams was suspended, so I'm not going to say it like that. But I do like the fact that Sam Laporta, at least to start out the season, is going to be able to find a role in this offense. He's not going to have that opportunity, or at least that extra competition to have to deal with while he's settling into this offense, while he's finding his role. And this still kind of all stands to be seen whether he does play this year, because there is a lot of, not so much bias, but rookie tight ends don't really play a whole lot in the league until they get that trust of their team. That's why I was talking about Pat Freiermuth and him being sort of an odd man out and sort of a weirder case. We're hoping that Sam Laporta is able to slot in immediately, because out of all the tight ends here, he is the most talented in Detroit, hands down.
It's not even close.
Yeah. It's
no
just
question.
a matter if they get him out there on the field soon, which is what I'm hoping for.
Yeah, even if he's not like super fantasy relevant year one, I would absolutely expect him to get playing time and for him to be involved in this offense. They just don't really have a choice. Like you said, with Jameson Williams suspended for 6 games, they have Amon-Ra, they have Jahmyr Gibbs, and that's kind of it in terms of like difference making receiving positions. Like he's the next guy up. He's been getting tons of hype so far throughout these kind of rookie mini camps, said to be, the best player on the field in these rookie mini camps. Again, we wouldn't put a little damper on all the positive talk in the offseason. We talked a little bit about that in our most recent podcast. If you're interested in that, go check it out. But still, where there's smoke, there's fire. If we hear enough of this, then I'll start to buy into it a little bit more. And also, it's just a guy that we both loved as a prospect and a profile that I think we both believe in.
Absolutely.
Yes, I also have him in this tier. I have him one spot below a guy. This might be a little bit high for you. This might be a little bit high for most of the Dynasty community, but I really believe in him, and it's Greg Dulcich.
Ooh,
I have
Okay.
him as my tight end 10 right now.
Okay. Okay. I want to hear the rationale here. I'm excited to hear this a little bit.
Yeah, so here, I want to pull up some stats. Where do I have them? Give me one moment. There we go.
There's something that's important to look at, guys. Sometimes you can't really look at production for a tight end, especially for a young tight end. It's not really going to tell you a whole lot. What you got to look at is trends, sort of trends and
Yeah,
stats, stuff like that. I'm sure that's what
there's
Eric's about to talk about.
underlying metrics that I
Hmm.
think were fantastic for Dulcich, even production wise. Like he wasn't that bad. 8.6 points per game. And that was also in an anemic offense with Russell Wilson clearly not at his best and with Nathaniel Hackett not knowing what he was doing. He did have, let's see, 5 games I believe he played 12 games this season. 10. He only played 10. So half of the games he played, he was over 10 fantasy points. So I think that in and of itself was pretty impressive. But he's just the fourth rookie tight end ever to post 10 points per game on a 9+ ADOT, joining Rob Gronkowski, Kyle Pitts, and Evan Ingram as the only players ever to do that.
It's great company.
And now he's locked into a Sean Payton offense. And an ascending one. I think Russell Wilson should improve. The efficiency of the offense should improve. His role, I think, will be fairly solidified. So I just think that he produced well, even if not super clearly for fantasy with the underlying metrics, and his situation is really, really good.
I say he is poised to take a step up.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do see that. I can see that. What number are we at right now? We are at 12, right?
Believes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So at
12.
this point now, guys, like we said, we got our top 12 right here. So if you want to take a look at this, but we are going to keep going forward until we round out this tier because I don't believe this tier is done yet. Are you done
Not
with this
quite.
tier?
I still got a couple more names here.
Okay. Well, one of those names happened to be Darren Waller.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it would.
Okay. It's just we've seen Darren Waller already be a top tight end in the league. We've seen him perform. We've also seen him get hurt and not play a whole lot. So we kind of gotten the best of both worlds out of Darren Waller. But with him over there in New York, there is no real competition to take any volume away from Darren Waller whatsoever. He could very easily step into 100 targets. Very easily. Because as much as we love Wan'Dale Robinson, I don't see him being a threat to Darren Waller. Jalen Hyatt, not a threat to Darren Waller. Darius Slayton, not a threat to Darren Waller. I could keep naming guys, but it doesn't really matter because none of them are better than Darren Waller. And the only thing that's holding him back, of course, like I talked about earlier, is injuries, age, and then I guess overall, maybe even team commitment. I don't think he's really signed for a long time with the Giants. I don't think there's much time left on his contract, is there?
Yeah, I echo a lot of the same sentiments. This is again kind of a production now type argument. He goes to a fantastic situation in New York with, I think, a really good offensive-minded coordinator. Brian Dable, head coach, I think is also really creative in his usage of players, and he's great at getting his best playmakers the ball. Darren Waller, like you said, turns into the first receiving option for New York right away. And even last year, in what was a down year for Darren Waller, not that this is super impressive, but he was still the tight end 10, putting up 9.4 points per game. I think a lot of people would have thought he did worse than that. But yeah, he was right behind the likes of Dalton Schultz and David Njoku, right in that same range. And he was doing that alongside Devontae Adams. And now he gets to go be the focal point of the offense in New York.
Absolutely. Let's see if I can find his contract still. Boom, boom, boom.
My go-to is Spotrac.
I'm just waiting for it to load.
Okay.
Out here embarrassing me.
Let's see.
That's his older contract.
Okay, so I got it to come
Signed
up.
through 2023.
Wait.
No. 2026. But there's a potential out after this year.
Right. So yeah, if they are so inclined and they want to get rid of him after this year, they absolutely can for a much lower dead cap hit than they would if they were to keep him. But he is technically under contract through 2026.
Hell yeah.
Through his age 34 season.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, fully in agreement there. He's my tight end 13, so he's near the bottom of this tier, just because one age, but mostly because of injuries. We
Mm-hmm.
haven't seen him stay healthy for a significant portion, or for the majority of a season in a long time. And so it's hard for me to trust that he's going to be there to actually produce for you. But if he does stay healthy, yeah, I think the situation's fantastic. And in a points per game realm, maybe not overall, I think he could be top 4, top 5.
No, I absolutely agree. Uh, yeah, if not higher, honestly, because we've seen him do really well. We've seen him end almost as we've seen him end as a tight end one before, haven't we? Or at least very close. No, it's probably
Very
tight end two.
close. Because Kelsey, we mentioned at the top
Yeah,
of the
I was
show,
about to
he's
say
been the
it's
tight end
been
one
Kelsey
6 of the last 7 years, and the only
and
time
Mark
tight end one was
Andrews.
Mark Andrews.
Yeah,
So yeah, I think he's probably the tight end 2 one of those years in recent history.
sheesh. But yeah, ceiling's through the roof. It's just a matter of if he can stay out on the field, and he's getting older, so that's why he's down
Yeah.
here. But in terms of production, he's up there.
For sure. I do have one more name
Mm-hmm.
on this list, and that's going to be Evan Ingram
Yeah.
for me. You agree?
Yep, I had the same. I'm interested to see what your rationale for him being down here is too.
Honestly, fairly similar to Darren Waller. They're a little bit on the older side compared
Mhm.
to a lot of guys in this tier. Most of the guys that we have in here are either rookies or second-year players. Evan Ingram just had a fantastic year last year. He produced in a way that I think surprised all of us. He finished as the tight end 7 in points per game, but he came on a lot stronger in the second half of the year, so that doesn't really reflect the entire season.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think that this offense is ascending. Trevor Lawrence, I expect to take a step up. The efficiency, I expect to take a bump up as well. And I don't see him relinquishing his role in this offense. Calvin Ridley does come in. But I expect if anybody's going to take a hit, it's going to be Zay Jones rather than Evan Ingram.
Mm-hmm.
I think Evan will probably retain that kind of third look in the offense. I guess last year he might have been second. But debatable either way. Again, with the bump that this offense I expect them to take, I don't really see his production being hurt by Calvin Ridley's addition to the offense. So yeah, even though he's a little bit older, at this point, like with the guys that we're going to be talking about with the rest of this range, like just give me the production now and we'll figure it out later.
Yeah, because this is another guy. The reason why he's as low here for me, he could have been even a little bit higher. He's one of those guys who probably could have broken into that B tier range, but the only issue, or not the only issue, but the biggest issue for me is that the team didn't really commit to him as well. This is who I was thinking of. I don't know why I thought with Darren Waller, but Evan Ingram got franchise tagged this year. So he's only on a 1 year right now, so there's no real long-term commitment to Evan Ingram. So after this year, who knows? They also did draft a tight end in Brenton Strange.
Yeah.
Strange move. But I mean, it's a possibility that Evan Ingram isn't with this team next year. I don't think it's very likely, but I think also with us having him this far back, that kind of bakes that risk into Evan Ingram in Dynasty as well.
Yeah, fully agreed there. How do you, so, we're looking at different screens. How do you have it listed in the tiers right now from top to bottom? Let's go through it.
So as of right now, S tier, Kyle Pitts, Mark Andrews. A tier, Travis Kelce, TJ Hawkinson. B tier, George Kittle, Dalton Kincaid, Dallas Goedert, Pat Freiermuth. C tier, Michael Mayer, Greg Dulcich, Sam Laporta, David Njoku, Darren Waller, Evan Ingram.
Okay. Yeah, that's almost exactly it. Is that exact? Yeah, that's exactly how I have it listed in my tight end rankings. And what was your only difference there? You had Dallas Goedert a little bit higher, right?
Yeah, my difference was I had Dallas Goedert at the top of B tier. I had then George Kittle and then Dalton Kincaid. So it was really just him getting moved up, but everything else was the same.
Okay. I'm shocked that we agreed so much, honestly. I thought there was going to be a little bit more argument with these tight ends, but now we're really in lockstep here.
I think it's tough to really disagree too much, to have too many opinions on these tight ends, because we saw how bad of a year last year was. I think that we're all just so hyper-focused on the facts that we've all landed around the same consensus. Like, until one of these guys is just amazing and the best thing we've ever seen, I think we just got to look at it for what it is, and this is what it is.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I think there's probably a couple people out there in the Dynasty community that would argue for Chico Okonkwo probably being in C tier.
There's someone probably
Um,
argue for Dalton Schultz being in C tier just because of
Dalton
volume.
Schultz,
Houston
Cole
Texans.
Kmet.
Yeah.
There's some other names on here that I think aren't too far off. They would be in the next tier for me.
Yeah. Zach Kuntz.
Okay, I don't know about all that. I gotta just say his name real quick though. Jelani Woods, that's my boy. You got him. You sniped him from me in our Dynasty League most recently. I think he creeps his way up, maybe into the C tier by next year. I think he's gonna have a big year.
I agree with that also. I definitely agree with
Yeah.
that. But yeah, there's a lot of guys down here still that didn't get named. Doesn't mean we don't like them. Just means we don't
Yeah.
value them as much as the other guys. But they still got a lot of room. Obviously, some of these guys haven't even taken an NFL snap yet, so we still got to really see if they can perform. Because we could be flat out wrong about some of these guys. There's a risk in
Yeah.
that. I doubt it. But with that being said, make sure you guys do all that great YouTube stuff. Make sure you guys like, comment, drop down in the comments below. What do you think about this tier list? What do you think about our results? Do you disagree? Do you agree? Again, like we said, there's a lot of guys left down here. Do you have Darnell Washington in B tier? Can I tell you you're wrong?
Didn't even name him in the competition with Pat Fryermuth earlier.
Yeah, I didn't even name him as a player that was on the team that
Nah.
could catch passes. But yeah, make sure you guys do all that great YouTube stuff. And make sure you leave a like. It's free and it's the best way to support us. Leave a dislike if you want to. If you don't agree with the list, leave a dislike. We like to see any type of interaction and engagements because we love interacting with you guys. And check out the link down in the description below to join our Discord and be a part of that community as well. Got some great guys over there, always talking about fantasy all day, every day. And be a part of that if you want to be in the know, at least with us in our group. And Eric, you have anything else for the people before we head out?
Yeah, just real quickly mention some of our sponsors. Dynasty Owner, link down in the description. You can get a discount code using our promo code. League Winners, we're partnered with them. We put out a lot of fantasy not articles, but videos for their site. Go check them out as well as the other content creators over there. Underdog Fantasy, we got a link promo code down there as well for a $100 deposit match. And Do Numbers, the merchant apparel brand. If you're looking to rock some cool hoodies, t-shirts, whatever it is that you like, we have another promo code, again, linked down in the description below for 15% off your order. So please go check those out. That would be very much appreciated from us and from our sponsors. But yeah, I think that'll do it for us. Thank you for sticking with us till the end. If you did, as always, we love you and we'll catch you in the next video. Peace.
Peace.